All right. So this is a breakdown of what is a bookkeeper, what is an accountant, and what is a financial strategist, and when do you need each one of them as a small business owner, and how do you apply them to your own business? So I want to go through this. By the way, this is not financial advice. I am not a bookkeeper. I am not an accountant, and I don't claim to be a financial advisor or anything like that. But what we do is we coach small business owners how to better understand their money and cash flow management. And why that is the Chamber of Commerce did a study, found out that 3 out of 5 business owners are not turning a profit. And the number one reason why is poor cash management. So let's dive into this. I want to just separate what is, the 3 roles that I see this. You have a bookkeeper, you have an accountant, and you have a financial strategist. And honestly, for us, if you are anywhere more than a solopreneur and even a solopreneur, we recommend that you have a bookkeeper and you have an accountant. Are they necessary? In terms of having an accountant, I don't believe it's actually necessary as a bookkeeper. And then for a bookkeeper, again, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. However, it's highly, highly recommended. And that way you can be as compliant as possible with knowing that your numbers are accurate. So what does each do? Well, let's go through a bookkeeper real quick. So a bookkeeper is someone who is going to look over the transactions in your business and be able to categorize what those transactions do. So, and I might get some flack from bookkeepers and accountants because I'm going off of what the basic sort of functions are. There are certainly bookkeepers who run their own businesses and accountants who run their own businesses, highly capable of doing far more than just the basic functions. But if we look at when does a small business owner need, one of these, it would be probably for the basic functions that are going to happen. And so a bookkeeper, what they do is during the month, or usually typically at a certain day within the month, they go back and they look at all your transactions. They try to categorize them into certain categories like software or rent or basic supplies, things like that. And when they can't figure out where does a transaction come from, then they reach out to you to help better understand what was that transaction. So for example, we have a bookkeeper for each of our businesses, and they reach out to us once a month if there's a transaction. So let's say we buy something through our business PayPal account. I don't know if you guys have ever used PayPal business, PayPal to buy stuff, but the receipts sometimes come back and they tell you nothing about what the purchase was. It'll just say like reference number this. And we have to go through and look at, okay, what did we buy for $99 that month? We have to backtrack, be able to figure it out. And that way we can categorize it for our business and be able to tell our bookkeeper, hey, this is what that purchase was for. Really helpful. Like it's incredibly helpful. It saves you from having to spend the time to do all this. So I have my side consulting business where I still do a lot of bookkeeping manually. And luckily I don't have that many clients or expenses. It doesn't take very long, but I could imagine if I were dealing with any kind of bigger business, like had employees, frequent expenses, man, the amount of time to do line iteming would be insane. And that's not the best use of your time as a business owner, right? And the reason we do this is to build better business owners to make better decisions in their business. So a bookkeeper is going to help you categorize your transactions. They're not going to tell you how to project about your business. They're not going to tell you how to best use the money or tell you, hey, these transactions are, out of whack. Sometimes they might say you have duplicate transactions. That's great. You can look at it and say, hey, maybe we're double spending. This happened to us before. We were double spending on a specific software. We didn't realize that we had signed up through 2 separate accounts. So that was super helpful. So that's a bookkeeper's primary function, at least the way that we have used them. And then for accountants are able to take what the bookkeeper gives them, look at all the categorization of your transactions. And they're going to help us not only look at that, but then they're going to look at our top line revenue. They're going to look at our expenses, and they're going to look at what's the profit left over. And some of those expenses, they're going to look at what can be a business write-off and what can't, right? And this is where an accountant can come in that's really smart. They can use things like the Augusta rule. If you're hosting events at your business, rent your apartment or house for a business event. They can do things like how do you get square footage maximized in your apartment or house for an office to be a tax write-off for your business. And what they do is with the bookkeeper, they're able to take all those transactions that are in categories, and the categories allow them to be able to make tax deduction decisions at certain, how we categorize them makes a difference on how we're able to use them in a tax sense. And an accountant looks at the past, AKA the books, your profit, or sorry, your expenses, your revenue above it, minus, so they'll take your revenue minus expenses, help you figure out your profit, right? A P&L sheet. Be able to say, hey, out of all of that, let's go through your, what is the optimal tax strategy that we can use to be doing this to get you the best benefit. And so when we talk with clients, a lot of times they already have an accountant and they have a bookkeeper, but they're really like, it's super helpful for them. Obviously, it gives them, what it provides is certainty and clarity that they're not doing anything wrong or bad. It's kind of how I view it, and that they're optimizing what they've already done. And so I really view at the basic level, an accountant and a bookkeeper is helping you interpret and optimize the past for the present moment. But that leaves this big gap. And this is where we look at so many of our clients still come to us saying, well, I have an accountant, I have a bookkeeper. What do you guys do? We help people strategize about their finances. And this comes in different ways. And this isn't a pitch for our program. Just, I think it's really important we get the definitions, basic functions and understanding of what each role does, because so many of our clients come to us who say, well, I hired a bookkeeper and an accountant a year ago, and I thought they'd help me figure out my entire business finances. And what they've learned is that they help them get certain and solidified about the past of what has happened in their business. But most people don't go to an accountant or a bookkeeper to help them figure out the projections of their business in the future, or how to be more disciplined in keeping the money that they're making, right? So this is, oftentimes they're not going to help you figure out exactly how much you can pay yourself, or, how are you going to, what can you take as a quarterly distribution? I know there are some that do. I think on the whole, the average client that we work with, their accountants aren't doing that. And they don't know how to, our clients are, business owners before working with us aren't prepared on how to ask questions to their bookkeeper, how to ask questions to their accountant to better understand how they can make decisions going forward. So we firmly believe, and one of the things we do is if somebody comes to us and they do not have a bookkeeper or an accountant, is that we set them up with a bookkeeper and accountant. Just really important to give you certainty and solidify what has happened in the past so you feel comfortable in the present. But then there's this huge gap, and this is where a financial strategist, or in our case, we call it a profit coach, comes in and helps you really understand what can you be paying yourself and where do you want to get to in this business, right? I hope that if you're in business, it's because you want to be able to reach personal financial goals, to be able to take certain amounts of vacation, financial freedom, all these things that you want. But we need a guide to help take us to figuring out what does that look like, right? And oftentimes what we'll do is look at what's the profitability of your offers, your products and services. And sometimes it's merely a pricing tweak that we can make that solves that closes the gap between what you want to be making versus what you're currently paying yourself. Sometimes it's, hey, you're getting all this data from your accountant and bookkeeper, and you don't know how to interpret the future from it. And that's where we come in and help that. And so I really want to break this down. I think there are these are three roles. Two are talked about a lot, a bookkeeper and accountant. We are huge fans of bookkeepers and accountants. And we firmly believe that every business should have one on their team. And the big gap that we see, though, is that there is this lack of how do we future plan and reverse engineer where we're trying to go with goal setting and reverse engineering the business that way in terms of money. So many of our people are already working with marketing coaches, sales coaches, business growth coaches, and they're just focused on revenue goals. I got to hit this revenue, and very little of it's focused on, well, what does that equal for you in terms of profit and being able to pay yourself? So that's these three roles. I want to break that down really quick. Hopefully this helps you with what a bookkeeper, an accountant, and the role of a financial strategist would be inside of your business. If you have any questions about it, you can shoot me a DM. If you guys are looking for an accountant or bookkeeper and struggling with that, shoot me or Alex a message, a DM as well. Happy to talk to you and connect with you. But I hope this helps, and we'll catch you guys again in the group soon.